Assalamu alaikum students, this is Ahmed Hussain from English department of SMB Qaidism Public School Higher Secondary section. So my students, today we are going to discuss the poem. Indeed, it is the part 2 of this poem, that is lines from an essay on man. And previously we discussed this poem in the first video lecture, and that was the first two stanzas. Those were the first two stanzas which were discussed earlier, along with its central idea and also explanations. And now let's proceed forward this poem. And now, before proceeding forward, let's have an overview of this poem once again, because initially this poem was introduced by Alexander Pope, who indeed has discussed in his typical style the nature, conduct and the destiny of the man. So now in this his epic work, Essay on Man, this poem is extracted out, because that's why its name is considered as Lines from an Essay on Man. And it was also discussed in the previous video, in the part 1 of this video lecture, that these are the lines that are taken out from the Essay on Man, and now it is the part of our poetry section. And in this second video lecture of this poem number 4 by Alexander Pope, we are going to discuss the remaining stanzas of this poem. So initially we discussed first two stanzas, and in the first two stanzas it was obviously discussed that where the poet described that God has concealed future and fate from all creatures, and they are absolutely unaware of the forthcoming event. Moreover, God has hidden from animals what he has given to the man, and from man what he has given to the angels. Otherwise, it would be impossible to live herein. That's why God has given to his creatures only what they can afford to know. So my students, now in the subsequent stanzas which are in front of us, and you can observe these stanzas on the board, where it has been written and it is mentioned that the poet says, "O blindness to future, O blindness to future kindly given, that each may fill the circle marked by heaven." O blindness to future kindly given, that each may fill the circle marked by heaven, who sees with equal eye as God of all, a hero perish or a sparrow fall, atoms or systems into ruin hurled, and now a bubble burst, and now a world. My students, here in this poem and in these lines, which is indeed the third stanza of this poem, Lines from an Essay on Man, the poet Alexander tells us how our ignorance to the future becomes a great blessing. How our future becomes a great blessing for us. That's why he says, "Oh blindness to the future kindly given." Then furthermore he says, but he thinks that we are kept ignorant of our simple future because God wanted each of us to complete the work fixed for us. Fixed for us, because the activities and the tasks are fixed for us. That's why the poet also says that each may fill the circle marked by the heaven. Moreover, the poet says that man is ignorant about the day ahead, so that he may complete the cycle of his life according to the wishes of God. Indeed, that's why these two lines are well connected with each other in this philosophical aspect, where the poet says, "Oh blindness to the future kindly given, that each may fill the circle marked by heaven." So my students, moreover, in the subsequent 4 lines of this stanza, and these 4 lines are indeed well connected with each other, where the poet tries to explain that man is ignorant about the days ahead, so that he may complete the cycle of his life according to the wishes of God, and that's why he watches the actions of all human beings, and that's why he says all actions of all human beings equal, with equality. As you can observe from this line, that who sees with equal eye as God of all. And now he has elaborated, he has given some examples, like example of hero, example of sparrow, example of atom and systems, a bubble and the world. So these are the 6 examples mentioned here about hero, sparrow, atom, system, bubble and the world. That's why as I earlier mentioned, that these 4 lines are well connected with each other, and here these 6 examples are given by the poet, where he shows the equality of these equality in the eyes of Lord, that the poet says that he watches the action of all human beings, seeing a sparrow and a hero. He knows about the ruin of a planetary system as well as about the ruin of the smallest particle. That's why he says atoms or systems into the ruin hurled. Moreover, it also means that the death of small or a great man, the least particle or any other system, does not impress God at all, because God watches the astronomical systems of the universe, even the bursting of a bubble or the ruin of the world. That's why, and now the bubble burst and now a world. So my students, this was all about the explanation of this 3rd stanza in this poem. And now let's move towards the 4th stanza, where the poet is going to discuss about the hope, and he has also preached the principle of humility and modesty in our life, obviously in this world. That's why the poet says, hope humbly then, with trembling pinion soar, wait the great teacher death, and God adore. So my students, here the poet says about the hope, that hope humbly then with the trembling pinion soar, wait the great teacher death, and God adore. What future bliss he gives, not thee to know, but gives that hope to be thy blessing now. So my students, here the poet once again explains about the importance of the hope, and he also suggests us to live the life of humility, because he says that God has very kindly made us blind to our fate and fortune, as earlier it was also described in the previous stanza as well. And that's why he says that we don't know what sorrows and sufferings and joys and happiness lie ahead in store for us. Hence, it is only prudent and wise to live simply with humble hopes and modest desires. That's why he says, hope humbly then, with trembling pinion soar. And ultimately, the poet suggests us that we should try to rise, but slowly and gradually. We should learn from the bird which soars, but slowly balancing its wings at every step, as though the bird is afraid of falling down. That's why with trembling pinion soar. So in a similar fashion, he also explains that we human beings should always keep death before us, because death teaches us that this world is just like an inn where we have come for a brief sojourn. That's why he says, wed the great teacher death, and God adore. What a future bliss he gives, not thee to know. My students, moreover, it has been mentioned by the poet, it has been further explained that death reveals to us the secrets of the next world and the mystery of the life hereafter. It also teaches us the lesson of parity and equality by living the beings alike. So my students, furthermore, it is the hope which keeps us happy and gives us comfort and solace when we are in the grip of difficulties and hardships. Thus we can say that hope is our best companion, because it is also said that hope is the best armor against the fate. That's why it has been mentioned by the poet that what a future bliss. That's why he considers hope as the future bliss. So my students, it was all about these two stanzas, and hopefully it was already explained in the previous video lecture. That was the part 1 of this poem, in which we discussed first two stanzas, and now we have also discussed with explanation these two stanzas in this second video lecture. And hopefully you have comprehended all these stanzas, and now the related activity along with this video lecture is that you should summarize these two stanzas in your own words. And moreover, I also sent a worksheet that will help us to assess your ability regarding the comprehension of these stanzas. Hopefully you will respond well. Thank you so much.